7 episodes ago, Tom Little, our director Yale Freed, and I decided to make this crazy sports show, and it slowly but surely became one of the finer television shows you'll find at any college in the country. But unfortunately, this is our last time as leaders of this incredible show. We'll try to make sure our tears and nostalgia don't dampen this flaming hot episode we have, though, so we'll save that all for the end. We have college football playoffs, MLB hot stove, and the almighty discussion, who is the NFL MVP? So with clear eyes, full heart, I'm Harris Rubenstein, and welcome to the Box Score.
Big news out of the Hearthstone world. Scorer. He's developed and is a grown killer.
From the round of 32 each of the last 2 years.
But you look at the Cubs, first in the league in whip, fifth in the league in nay-nay.
They still have what it takes.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Box Score, our last one of the semester. But one sport that we haven't really discussed this year has been college football, and it's a real shame because this season has been complete chaos. Jake Browning and former Boise State head coach Chris Petersen have led the Washington Huskies to this season's college football playoff to join Ohio State, Alabama, and Clemson. Now, people like me are complaining about maybe Penn State being in there or even pushing Michigan back into the top 4, but this has spawned a debate that we are probably going to have for at least the next few years. Should it be an 8-team playoff or should we keep it a 4? There are pretty valid arguments for both sides. Opening up the playoff allows for more matchups, more teams, more sponsorships, and more money, but I think there are a couple of pieces that get left out of all this. You are still making these kids play another game. They're getting crushed by other incredible college athletes. They're missing more classes, and we're still not paying them. I've been skeptical in the past about paying college players, but only because you'll never find a way to make everyone truly happy. But you can't keep adding these games to these student athletes' lives and not compensate them. Not to mention, you change it to an 8-team playoff, and I guarantee you, whoever the 9 and 10 teams are ranked in the college team are going to be screaming for a 16-team playoff, and then they add even more games, and so on and so forth. This is another case of no one being happy inside of college sports. Please keep it 4. Look how intense every single game became down the stretch. Every single game counts. Penn State didn't make it because despite them winning 11 games in a row and the conference championship and beating Ohio State, sorry you got crapped on by Michigan and lost the pit by 4. What do you want? Ohio State only lost to you guys and beat Michigan. That wasn't a first down, by the way, but we are long past that. Better record, better team. Now, this should have applied to Western Michigan as well, who went undefeated because Corey Davis, book it here, is going to be a superstar in the NFL. But oh well, the Big Five conferences run college sports as they always have. This 4-team college football playoff is awesome. For now, until we learn how to pay the players, keep it there. But to break down the 4 great games we have, we welcome in Katie Ree. Katie, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Washington. Please, what is your take on these incredible matchups we have this year?
Okay, so going into the playoff, Alabama is the team to beat with star players at nearly every position. Jalen Hurts is one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks in the country with 22 passing touchdowns this year, as well as 12 touchdowns on the ground. The Crimson Tide have been just as dominant. They are the only team to allow fewer than 4 yards per play, and they've given up just 14 offensive touchdowns through 13 games. All this makes Alabama the clear favorite at the start of the playoff, but there are still 3 other teams with a chance to win. Alabama's Peach Bowl opponent is the Washington Huskies, a team that was not highly ranked at the beginning of this season, but they fought their way into the playoffs with a 12-1 record. Sophomore Jake Browning is already an elite college quarterback. He's in second place in the FBS with 42 touchdown passes and in the top 10 in other categories such as passer rating and yards per attempt. The offensive line is solid. The Huskies are rushing well as a team, and John Ross has done very well as the leader of a very young group of receivers. The Huskies are certainly the underdogs against the Tide, but they have the talent to push Bama to their limits in the Peach Bowl. In the other semifinal, Clemson takes on the Ohio State in the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl. Clemson comes in as a favorite according to the rankings. They are ranked 2nd in the nation after winning the ACC title game against Virginia Tech. Quarterback Deshaun Watson is a Heisman finalist with 37 touchdowns through the air and 6 more on the ground. However, he is not taking care of the ball at all times, throwing 15 interceptions in his 13 games this season. And this could prove to be a problem for Clemson in the Fiesta Bowl, as the Ohio State Buckeyes are the team that can take an advantage on every possession. Personally, I see Alabama beating Washington, the Ohio State defeating Clemson, and for the finals, well, roll Tide roll, baby. Back to you, Harris.
Roll Tide Roll from Katie Ree. I gotta say though, Katie, my heart goes, it's gonna be Jake Browning and the Washington Huskies. I love my Jake Browning, man. He's gonna be so good. But anyway, on to professional football. Jack Almer here with me. Jack, we've had a pretty crazy NFL season so far with, the Raiders and the Cowboys are being crazy teams this year. A lot of shakeup though among teams that were pretty bad last year, good now this year. Give me a team in the NFC. We'll start there first before we go over to the AFC. What's the team in the NFC that surprised you most this year?
Well, I really like how the Detroit Lions have played this year. They were 7-9 in 2015, now 8-4, and in control of an NFC North that we thought was going to be dominated by the Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers. And a big part of this has been Matt Stafford. He is having his best season in professional football. He's on pace to have 5 receivers with 65-plus targets. He's spreading the ball around. That's the second time he's ever going to do that in his career. Plus, taking care of the football. Only 5 interceptions through 12 games. Has never gone a full season without throwing over 10 picks.
And it's so interesting that the Lions are doing this without arguably the greatest wide receiver of our generation in Calvin Johnson. He's just sitting at home like, grr, why didn't I get this good of a football team? But anyway, let's move over to another team in the AFC who, playing right now as we're recording this live on Facebook and on YouTube, give me your team in the AFC.
It's going to be the Oakland Raiders, another team that was 7-9 a year ago, now 10-2, and that has a lot to do with the youthful trio of Khalil Mack, Amari Cooper, and Derek Carr. We knew these 3 were going to be good, but we just didn't know when, and the time is now for these guys. Derek Carr having a great year, 5-0 on the road, 5th in total yards. His offense is 3rd in the league in points scored, and Carr 4th in the league in passing yards.
Yeah, I also had to sit Derek Carr tonight to start Dak Prescott. We were having a lot of talks about that backstage. Who should I start? AC/DC, Derek Carr. I love the guy from Fresno State. I was hoping he was going to end up being this good. I'm happy to see that the Raiders, should they stay in Oakland, finally have a good team out there. But let's move on to the big question.
Right.
Super Bowl 54, 3, whatever one we're on now. Big time matchup. 51 apparently, according to the people in my head.
I thought that. I didn't want to.
Who is your Super Bowl matchup for this year?
It's going to be the Dallas Cowboys and New England Patriots. I really like how the Cowboys are playing. They have my MVP candidate in Dak Prescott playing some really good football. 4th in total offense. They're making adjustments coming out of halftime. They're going behind in games, but then coming out and winning them, and that has what has led to their 11-1 record. On the flip side of that, you have a New England Patriots team where Tom Brady has played excellent. Despite that 4-game suspension, he's come out to take control of the NFL. A lot of people believe he should be in the MVP talk. We'll get to that later. But with an injured Gronk, they still have a top-tier tight end in Martellus Bennett to come fill that void. A lethal duo out of the backfield in Dion Lewis and James White. So this is a Patriot team that's not hurting on offense. They are, however, lacking a pass rush, but that hasn't stopped them from putting up the 7th best defense in yards allowed.
Not to mention one of the best scoring defenses in football. They don't give up a lot of points. One more question, though, before we let you go. We'll see you back for our next segment with Buy or Sell. But this New England Patriots team might have trouble on offense with no Rob Gronkowski. Who do you see on this Patriots offense that's going to replace it outside of Martellus Bennett? Because every year in the playoffs that the Pats haven't had Gronk fully healthy, they've lost. So what's different this year?
Right, well, they have 3 wide receivers, something they didn't have last year. Now, the injury to Danny Amendola may be a concern, but once they get to the playoffs and once they get him back, that shouldn't be too much of an issue. But Julian Edelman and Malcolm Mitchell have stepped up big time. Guy snapped off his arm in preseason. He's coming back and having a great, that was a brutal injury, having a great year. But the return of Dion Lewis bolsters that backfield. They still have LeGarrette Blount. So they're really set on all cylinders. That tight end position they're just filling in with Martellus Bennett, not really losing any pieces there. So this unit collectively is going to be able to replace the production that Gronk leaves.
Malcolm Mitchell is actually a guy who I'm actually really surprised with because take it from someone who watches the Patriots a lot. The Patriots have not been able to create anything at wide receiver outside of did you know that Julian Edelman was a quarterback at Kent State? Have you ever heard everyone tell you that every single time?
Ever.
It's completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Jack, thank you for coming on. That's going to be it for us with football. When we come back, we're going to welcome in our baseball experts to do a little buy or sell segment with our current MLB winter meetings.
Introducing the stars of Emerson's #1 morning show. This is Medina Shehi. She breaks the latest pop culture news. She also recently broke the bench press world record in Germany, twice.
Genetics.
This is Chloe Tebow, always the first to break the hard-hitting news on the local and national scale. Also always the first person to pop up on your Tinder account.
I love meeting new people.
This is Malcolm Kellner, Minnesota native and sports extraordinaire.
It's true.
He was the second choice for the reporter position. Our first took a job at EIV. This is Sean Stackhouse, one of the two dynamic hosts leading the charge of the show. He will say literally anything that is on the prompter.
And I'm Lauren Fox.
This is the real Lauren Fox. She thought she would be hosting Good Morning Emerson alone. She claims there is no ill will between her and the producers. This is Noah. He's lighting.
The MLB winter meetings have been as hot as ever, burning the cold off of all of our frigid hearts. With no more baseball left, we needed a little bit of a spark. And boy, oh boy, did Dave Dombrowski give us one heck of a spark. We'll talk a little bit of Chris Sale, a little bit of Edwin Encarnacion, a little McCutcheon, and a little Aroldis Chapman. Welcome to the Box Score Buy or Sell segment. Brian Danoff and Jack Ross versus Olin Hayes and Jack Aylmer. Guys, this is gonna be a really fun segment. I'm looking forward to this a lot. So let's start with Brian and Jack. Brian and Jack, buy or sell Chris Sale to the Red Sox?
Well, it's an absolute buy. I think, look, the Red Sox obviously parted with some great young talent, Yohan Moncada, Michael Kopech. Those are two can't-miss prospects. They will probably become solid major leaguers with the White Sox, but when you have the potential to add a pitcher like Sale, I think you got to do it.
You know what? I got to agree with my teammate, Brian here. And I love the cha-ching sound that we did for buy. So I'm going to say buy. And there we go. We got the cha-ching sound. I love that. But, yeah, I'm a hard buy on this trade. I mean, obviously we know a guy like Moncada and Kopech. Those are two of the Red Sox top prospects. But at the end of the day, there is that word, prospects. And as we know, numerous times in the past has the #1 prospect in the MLB not panned out. So they're trading for a guy, Chris Sale, who in the past 5 years has finished in the top 6 of the American League Cy Young voting every season. And they add that with this year's Cy Young winner Rick Porcello, as well as previous Cy Young winner David Price, to form what I think is now the best pitching staff in baseball. So clearly this is a move that they made to win this year and the next year, and I am a full buy.
Full buy from both Jack and Brian. Let's bump it over to you guys, because the resident Red Sox fan among us five seems to be the only one that doesn't actually like this trade. So Jack, we'll start with you. Buy or sell Chris Sale to the Red Sox?
I'm going to buy this as well, and I liked what my opposition Jack Ross said about prospects. Moncada was unimpressive in his MLB debut with the Red Sox. They have a lot of good players right now. Betts, Bogart, Bradley. There's no way they're going to be able to keep all those guys moving forward. They have to go all in on a title right now, and that's why the sale is a good move.
Also buying. Yeah, I mean, Yohan Moncada doesn't really have much of a space at this point. I mean, he came up as a second baseman originally, and Pedroia, obviously, has that spot locked down for years. So they thought about moving him to third. I think I would have liked to see that instead of trusting Sandoval with anything. But instead, they were going to go with, I think trading for an established pitcher who can win you games is never a bad move.
Awesome. Well, 4 buys. Unfortunately, you're going to get one sell here.
One sale too.
We'll see, because I still think Yohan Moncada is the next Robinson Cano. Guy can't hit a curveball for anything, but he's only 20. He's guy has bigger muscles than like almost any 20-year-old I've ever seen. But we'll move on from him. One of the biggest free agents this year was Edwin Encarnacion. Could have gone to the Blue Jays. No longer. Could have gone to the Red Sox. No longer. Could have gone to the Astros. No longer. He's running out of teams that are going to sign him. We're going to switch over to here. We're going to start with Olin. Olin, the last team that could possibly sign him seems to be the Cleveland Indians. Buy or sell Cleveland Indians, Edwin Encarnacion?
Buy, I guess. I'm not confident in it. I'm not excited about it if I'm an Indians fan or Encarnacion, really. I don't know that it's necessary or necessarily the right move. However, I mean, you might as well. At this point, the Indians are a great team. They could win a World Series this year. They're built to win a World Series now and for the next couple of years. So if you overpay, even if you overpay by a lot, you get a great hitter for the next 2 or 3 years. I think it's sort of worth it. And I don't see anywhere else he could go. Maybe Texas if they find some money. Maybe the Mariners if they want to be good. But I don't see it
There's
happening.
never a lot of
I don't see it
baseball.
happening.
Who we
So
get?
yes, sort of.
Jack, buy or sell Edwin Encarnacion to the Cleveland Indians.
You know, I'm in the same boat. I'm going to have to buy this as well, just because there's really nowhere else he can go.
else can he
Texas
do?
doesn't have the money. The Blue Jays have all but ruled out a return for him. So going to a Cleveland Indians team that, like my teammate said, is built to win, just makes too much sense. And if I'm the Indians, I'm willing to overpay a little bit to bring one of the best hitters in baseball aboard to try to make another World Series run.
Very true. But, with these two buys, Edwin Encarnacion has been looking for a more long-term deal, but the Indians aren't exactly what I call big market teams. Still have to sign up Kluber in a couple years, have to get Lindor on a massive contract. Do they have the money, Jack Ross, to sign Edwin Encarnacion, buy or sell to the Indians?
See, I'm going to go with a sell in the present. That means in the next couple of days, we are not going to see Edwin Encarnacion sign with the Cleveland Indians. And the name that is what I think is going to put a big stopper in this deal is Mike Napoli. That's a guy whose numbers are very, very similar to Encarnacion's last year. He's only a year older, and he will come at a much cheaper price. And we saw the success the Indians had last year when he was on the team. The guy drove in over 100 RBIs, 30-plus home runs. He can play first base. He can play DH. He fits in there. He does what Encarnacion does, but at a cheaper price. And if I'm them right now, I'm leveraging that to try to get Encarnacion to chip millions of dollars off his deal. So if he rejected a 4-year, $80 million deal from the Blue Jays, I don't think he gets nearly that much from the Indians. And if he does sign, it's not for what he wants.
So we have two buys in our first sell.
Second
of
sale,
the
first
evening. Brian, what do you think? Buy or sell Edwin to the Indians?
Well, look, Mr. Ross and I are kind of on the same wavelength right now. I'm going to go sell as well. In that I don't think Encarnacion's going to sign with the Indians anytime soon. I could see this dragging on into January, maybe into early February. There just doesn't seem to be a team that wants to pay Encarnacion what he wants. And we've seen that time and time again with a number of free agents who come into the offseason expecting a big payday, and it's just not there. There are no takers. I do think, as you said, Napoli, if I'm the Indians, I want him back more than Encarnacion. He's cheaper. He knows Cleveland. He came up big in the postseason. He's a proven veteran, a proven commodity. And if I'm Cleveland, I think I am prioritizing Napoli over Encarnacion.
Very nice. So next guy we're going to talk about, this one's going to be a little bit faster of a one, since I think we can all kind of come up with a pretty easy solution for this one. Andrew McCutchen, former NL MVP, one of the better center fielders in baseball until this past year. Let's go quickly through this so we can get to our last guy, who's actually who we want to talk to. Andrew McCutchen, buy or sell, Brian?
Sell. He's staying in Pittsburgh for this season, and he needs to prove himself next season.
Jack Ross?
I'm selling him as well. The last team I thought were going to be involved was the Washington Nationals, but they just made the move for Adam Eaton, so I don't see a market for him.
Yeah, sell. I mean, he was good enough. He's good enough for the Pirates to want to keep him, but he's not good enough for anyone to really want to trade for him.
Jack?
Sell as well. Nobody.
Or sell. Last guy we're going to talk about, Aroldis Chapman. To the Yankees, 5 years, $85 million. The whole domestic abuse thing, $85 million to the Yankees. Buy or sell Aroldis Chapman? Let's wrap this up.
I absolutely buy this. Chapman, look, the Yankees needed their closer. I think that it'll be worth it. He'll be a great addition to the bullpen. He'll lock down games. The Yankees just got a lot better.
Jack?
I'm a buy as well. I'll never be able to excuse Chapman for his misconduct,
Absolutely
but
not.
at the same time, you're seeing what the money that closers are getting right now. The closers become one of the hottest positions in the MLB. We saw a guy like Andrew Miller in the postseason last season really take it up a notch, and he's kind of set the bar high for what a team needs to look for in a closer. So I think the Yankees had the money, and they wanted their guy, and they went out there and spent what they needed to spend.
Two buys. Over to you guys. Buy or sell Aroldis Chapman?
I'm going to buy this. He was a great example with Andrew Miller. Miller was basically one of the reasons that the Indians were able to sweep through the Red Sox. Closers are such an important part of baseball today, and that's why Chapman gets my vote.
Olin, really quickly, buy or sell Aroldis Chapman? 5 years, $85 million.
Buy it. It's overpriced, but you've got to overpay for a player of this caliber at this point. And I think we saw what he can do in the playoffs. We saw what he can do in the regular season with the Yankees and the Cubs last season. He's a great player. Speaking purely from a baseball perspective, one of the best closers in baseball.
Four buys on Aroldis Chapman, getting 5 years, $85 million. That is going to do it for our buy or sell segment. Great job, fellas. Got through the four biggest free agents of the year. But when we come back, it is time for the box score opinion. Who is the NFL MVP? When we come back, we'll find out.
Lauren, what are you doing?
I'm getting ready to host Good Morning Emerson, of course.
Good Morning Emerson? What's that?
It's the best morning show ever that's on Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m.
Wow, how can I work on this?
Yeah, let's get going. Red leather, yellow leather, red leather.
The biggest question at the end of almost every NFL season, who is the league's most valuable player? We've had a couple of interesting years here and there, but not a Tom Brady MVP for the past 3 years. Maybe that changes this year, or maybe they give it to a third-year quarterback. We'll find out. Who is the NFL MVP? Sam Gordon, Brian Daniff, Jack Ulmer, Olin Hayes return with us for this segment. So let's start over here. We're going to keep these answers a little bit short because I think that's all we're really going to need for a lot of this stuff. So let's start with Sam over here. Sam, who do you believe will be the NFL MVP this year?
Well, I'm a big Cowboy guy this year. I'm going to go with Ezekiel Elliott because he broke the Cowboys' rookie rushing record through 10 games. 10 games. Unbelievable. So, and in my mind, with the you give credit to the offensive line, but he's the leading rusher in the NFL right now. He's behind just LeGarrette Blount in rushing touchdowns with 12. Blount has 13. And so he leads in most categories statistically for a running back. He's not only going to be an All-Pro, he's not only going to be a Pro Bowler, he's going to be the MVP.
All right, Ezekiel Elliott, first-year guy, one of my favorite running backs to ever come out of college. Brian, let's give it over to you. Do you stay with a position player, or do we go to the leader of a team?
We go right to the quarterback position. We go to Derek Carr of the Oakland Raiders. Look, this guy, not only does he have the stats, not only does he have the great team behind him, he has a 93.9 quarterback rating in the fourth quarter or overtime. This guy gets it done when it matters most. I am a huge fan of him. I trust him in the biggest situations. I think he has a great chance to take the Raiders deep into the playoffs. I'm very excited for him and the Raiders. I think Carr has been the best quarterback in the league, not counting Brady's great performance, albeit it'll end up being 12 games. Brady doesn't have the games. Carr has the games. Carr has the stats. Carr has a clutch factor. Carr is my MVP.
We'll see how Derek Carr does tonight against a very tough Kansas City Chiefs defense inside of Arrowhead with no Kelechi Osemele. But Jack Ulmer, who is your MVP? Because I feel a difference of opinion.
I do have a different opinion. I'm going to have to go with Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. It's a big one, but the rookie has been sensational. All right, he's thrown just 2 picks all season despite being second in yards per pass attempt among starting quarterbacks. He's third in passer rating. He's 8th in rushing yards by a QB and 2nd in rushing touchdowns by a quarterback. Now, looking at the record previously by these Cowboys, 2014, Romo with this offensive line went 12-4. In 2015, without him, it was a 4-12 team. Now, Prescott has a 11-1 team on pace to break Romo's record. If he can do that, this team is infinitely better with Dak Prescott, clearly, and that's why he gets my MVP vote.
At Dak on Twitter, has been one of the best quarterbacks in football. Offensive line and offensive line, the guy's accuracy. He just didn't do this as Mississippi State. But let's go over to you, Olin. Who is your NFL MVP? Maybe we'll have a little bit of a majority here.
I'm going to agree with Brian on this. I'm going to go with Derek Carr. I think if you go to the Cowboys, you look and you see that there are just too many people who are valuable to that team. And most valuable means the best player, but it also means most valuable. You have to look at the word valuable. The Cowboys have the best offensive line in recent history. They've got 3 of the maybe the top 5 linemen in all of the NFL: Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick, Zach Martin. These are insanely good linemen. I mean, they've got a good line in Oakland, don't get me wrong, but Derek Carr does not have the caliber of team around him. He doesn't have the caliber of receivers. Michael Crabtree is the best receiver he has, and he's still putting up amazing numbers, more comebacks than anyone except for Matthew Stafford, and Stafford is losing in every game in the first place, so that's a bit of a problem. He's taken a team that has been just the definition of futility for years and turns them into maybe the best team in the AFC.
Fair enough. Well, one more thing, because we do have a little bit of extra time. I want to hear one answer from all you, very quick, one-line answer. Why does Tom, besides this whole missing 4 games, why is Tom Brady not the MVP of this league?
If to miss 4 games and win the MVP, you have to be way better than everyone else. And he's been slightly better than his competition. But I think, again, you also have to look at the value. They were 3-1 without him. They destroyed the Texans, who were a playoff team without him. Not that the Texans are a great team, but they annihilated them without Tom Brady. I think the Patriots are still a good team without Brady.
Jack.
Same. Team was great without him and has basically been the same with him. So taking Tom Brady out of the equation didn't make that much of a difference.
They've averaged 9 more points per game with Tom Brady than with Garoppolo. Why not Tom Brady?
Tom Brady has had a great season, but will finish a little short without Gronkowski and with a struggling Julian Edelman. I don't trust Brady without Gronkowski to play as well as he has.
Fair enough. Sam Gordon, lastly before we sign off here.
You guys are a little too harsh on Brady with this. Harris is right, averaging 9 points per game with Tom Brady instead of Jimmy Garoppolo. But he was just a short second for me. But just a little too close to the competition.
Just not quite there. Well, no Tom Brady's for MVP. That's going to do it for our War Room segment. When we come back, it is finally time to say goodbye. Tom Little joins us in the studio as me and him give one final salute to what we hope will be our lasting legacy here at Emerson College. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Aaron Kinigsberg, host of EIV's The Dish. Tune in every Friday for your chance to see what kind of bow tie I pulled out of my closet today.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is finally time. I have not emotionally prepared for this, but Tom, it is time for us to say goodbye to our child, to our baby, the box score.
Yeah, we started this show preparing for it a little over a year ago with pitching and everything. EIV was kind enough to pick us up, watch us through our infant stages. We got so much support from them. Then news director Andrew Lemos, now news director Tom Bunting. We are so thankful for you. We're also thankful for our director, Yale Freed, who's been here since day one, as well as Connor Carrico, Tim Howard, Mariah Terry, and Chris Black.
We got to get into the control room to see these guys. Tom, I remember when we first came up with the concept of the show, I ran to you and I said, Tom, I want to make a sports show, but my name has to be in it. And you're like, okay, weird request, but every great news show, NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt, Garbage Time, Katie Nolan, or was Any Given Wednesday with Bill Simmons, all the great shows. Mwah, have a name on top. That's my girlfriend, by the way. Don't worry, no worry. Song Park, The Wise. Thank you, Song, for everything that we've done this year.
I remember we were producing UC at the time you came to me, and we hadn't even done an episode together, and we came up with the name with Brian Roth. As you see all of our great young talent come by.
Freshman, sophomore, freshman. All the young talent in the world, and then our 30P and my roommate, Jack Ross. Thank you for everything.
Oh, it's been a wild ride.
Guys, please preserve this show. It means a lot.
All right, so here we are in our control room. Let's take a look at the front row right here.
Do this, man.
You see Chris Black, Yale Freed, our director, Kelly DiTomaso, Tim Howard, Richard Fielko. They're all fantastic. We had such a great crew, such a great time producing this show.
Dude, Tim Howard's saving more than just goals for the United States. He's saving the box score. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this incredible 8-episode trip. Next semester, hopefully, we will be back. But again, for the final time, I'm Harris Rubenstein, and this has been the box score. Am I allowed to cry? Oh. I'm out of here, man. Fucking out of here. What?